Howdy, y'all. Caleb here. We had a points update and a little FAQ, some errata, whatever you want to call this, a Battlescroll update. So, we have some changes for Seraphon. Let's see how they affect us. We're going to hit on the overall changes first, and then we'll get into the points. And then I've got a couple lists to look at that have been performing well, and let's see how much these point changes affect those lists. So, the first thing, and this one's important, is a season rule change. This one is for priority target. What priority target is, if you're new to the game or you haven't been playing that long, is in deployment, you're going to pick one of your units in your general's regiment to get a special ability. You'll either pick special assignment, priority target, or bodyguard. So special assignment, you get +1 Ren versus something in your opponent's army, like some type of unit, if you charge. Priority target, which was really the favorite, you get +1 to hit and wound versus anything in your opponent's general's regiment. Or bodyguard, which helps reduce attacks incoming if you're near your general. So the change for this battle scroll is, as it reads here, add 1, you're changing this to this effect. Add 1 to hit rolls and wound rolls for attacks made by models in the honor guard unit that target the enemy general or enemy honor guard if that target is within 12 inches. So we've brought down the range to within 12, and then also we brought down who you get this buff against. So now it's only the enemy general or the unit they picked as their honor guard. So I think this has some pretty big impacts in the deployment phase type of mini game here. I think this won't be used on as much shooting as it was before. So think like your Stormcast snipers. You know, that was a favorite of that unit. They were going to put that on their snipers. Their snipers would be hitting on 2s and 2s against anything in your general's regiment. So that made me want to not put a lot in my general's regiment. So I think some of that's gone. You'll see some of that long-range shooting not take this as much. It wants to be on like a melee target. But it comes with a risk because that honor guard unit that takes this is the only one that's going to be able to be like teched against. So I think what you're going to see in deployment is whoever the attacker is, so they're going to pick their ability first. Now remember, you don't have to pick one of these. It does say you can, so you don't have to pick one of these. I think the attacker will either not select one, or select one of these things for a trash unit in their general's regiment, or select it onto something that they can put in ambush. So for Seraphon, there's not really any good options to put something in ambush for this. But if you're thinking Stormcast, I know a lot about the Stormcast because my son plays it all the time. You could put this on maybe like prosecutors. They're going to be in ambush. They're going to come in and hit the unit they want to. That would be a good one to put as your honor guard because there's no risk while it's off the board. So I think as an attacker, that's maybe something you would do. So then the defender has a chance to answer that with what they pick. So you can say, what did they pick as their honor guard? Am I going to be able to hit it with whatever I will pick as my honor guard? Can I hit their general with whatever I pick as my honor guard? If the answer is no, then don't pick priority target. Go for special assignment or bodyguard. Probably special assignment because bodyguard just seems to be teeing it up for priority target if you're picking first. So I think you would pick special assignment. If you have something that can reach out and touch their general, then by all means priority target's good, but you'll need to get in close to do it. So I think there's going to be a little bit more of a mini game there in the deployment phase. And I think you'll see some people that just either don't select one, they opt not to, or they put it on some trash unit that you don't really care about. Maybe we'll see bodyguard go up in use a little bit more. But I think you'll see special assignment used probably more than priority target at this point. It also means that there's no risk in putting stuff into your general's regiment. So fill that regiment up. There's no reason not to put as many units in your general's regiment as possible now. So a good change, I think. A good one. There were some armies that were kind of abusing the priority target, I think. All right, the next big change was the magic manifestations here. So Morbid Conjuration, which is a manifestation lore, has really been running rampant on the table. It's in just about every, top table list. It's got really good spells. It's got 4 of them, so you can cast out quite a few, and they all have a very good roll. Shackles is amazing. Malevolent Maelstrom is amazing. Purple Sun is amazing. The Suffocating Gravetide is amazing. They're all 4 of them are great. And so I think that's what makes Morbid Conjuration so good. They're just all good. So they've tried to rein that in a couple ways. Number 1, and you can see up here on the top left, no more than 1 friendly wizard or priest can attempt to summon the same manifestation per turn. And then you can't do the same one over and over again, basically. So you can't. There were a couple armies that could cycle in a manifestation, banish it, and then summon it in again. So that's gone there. So that's a good change. I don't think that was really being abused by Morbid Conjuration per se, but there were a few manifestations that you could do that with. The next rule there, banishing manifestations. This one adds 1 to the banishment roll for each additional enemy manifestation on the battlefield after the first. This is interesting because with a lot of Morbid Conjuration, you end up with quite a few spells on the board. Sometimes you summon spells just to summon them because you got nothing else. You want them for the next turn. You're kind of teeing it up for later. With this one, this makes it very easy to banish some of these manifestations. So if you have a really important one that you need up and running, maybe don't cast out more that are just going to be there just for the fun of it, because this is going to make it very easy for your opponent to banish them. Now, the downside is the opponent still has to use their spell cast to use those banishing. So it does cost them something. It's not like it's just free to try to banish these things. They are giving up a spell. So I think manifestations are still going to be, they're still going to be a critical part of this game. And I think we're still going to see Morbid. You can see over here on the right side, they've done a few things to try to rein in Morbid a little bit. They've raised the casting value of Suffocating Gravetide to 8. Makes it a little bit harder to cast there. On Malevolent Maelstrom, it took away the option to blow it up, so now it has to be blown up when it reaches 6 Maelstrom points at the end of that turn, and it'll do damage. In the times that I've seen it on the table, I don't think that will be as big of a deal, but it could backfire if you're not playing very well. So I think maybe if you're casting out Maelstrom and you're putting it in range of yourself, and then this blows up, that could be bad. So just don't do that. Purple Sun, they removed the Wild Form ability, and then the same with Gnashing Jaws. What this does is means, as it was previously written, if you try to banish it, it would only take 6 damage instead, and it wouldn't be banished on that time. So that is a good change there for Purple Sun. It's going to make it a lot easier to get rid of. I would have liked to see that stay for Gnashing Jaws. I didn't feel like that was as big of a problem for Gnashing Jaws because not many people were taking Primal Manifestation lore. I liked Primal Manifestation lore, so maybe that's just my bias saying that, why did you have to do that to Gnashing Jaws? But in the end, I don't think it's a huge deal because Gnashing Jaws isn't like super critical to the playstyle generally. You're just trying to get out there to do some damage, so okay. What they didn't take Wild Form from was the Incarnate. So I think you might see Incarnate make a return to a lot of lists, maybe, because it's not going to be affected by the extra cast to the banishing rolls. It still has Wild Form, so it's still going to be good. So maybe Incarnate makes a comeback here. We'll see. Looking at specific Seraphon rules that change, we got a couple things, and one of them for sure I think helps us out, and that is the battle formation. For Eternal Star Hosts, the Celestial Translocation ability, they are removing the core keyword from that. Now, what Celestial Translocation did is it gave you a translocate, there's another word for it, a teleport, that's what I was looking for, from a unit that's wholly within 12 of a wizard to somewhere else on the board outside of 9. The downside of that was if you didn't get that 3-up roll, because that was a core ability, that unit that you were trying to teleport was stuck. They couldn't move. So that's gone. That's fantastic. That's great. I don't know if it's enough to bring Eternal Star Host up to the top of the heap for our battle formations, but at least it makes it usable. So it's not horrible. I wish the restriction for being wholly within 12 of a wizard wasn't there. I wish it was more like the Vanguard battle formation from Stormcast, where there was no limit like that. But unfortunately there is. So you do have to kind of think ahead on this. What is within range of my wizard? What am I going to try to teleport? At least there's no downside to it now, but it's still a 3-up roll. So sometimes your battle formation just won't even be relevant. So a good change. I don't know that it's enough to push Eternal Star Hosts into my standard rotation of battle formations. The other change here was the Astrolith Bear got a change on his Celestial Conduit. Just kind of fixed up some of the wording there so it couldn't really be abused. I don't know anybody that was. I haven't seen the Astrolith Bear popping up in any competitive lists, really. They changed it to if a spell is successfully cast, well, if you pick a spell that's been cast, yada, yada, yada. If that spell is successfully cast for the rest of the turn, add 3 to the control scores of friendly Seraphon units while they are wholly within 12 of this unit. So it's good. It's more of like it sticks to the Astrolith Bear. Before you could do some like weird stuff where you could pile it on, especially if you had multiple Astroliths. So just kind of clean up some of that verbiage. I don't know that it's enough to make the Astrolith, show up in a bunch of lists or anything. So, okay, thanks. Before we get to the points adjustments, I wanted to bring up our win rate charts. This is from Woehammer. They've been running some of these numbers recently, and this one was from maybe two weeks ago, I think. And it shows Seraphon. This is GT wins. It shows Seraphon kind of right near the middle. I think we're at a 48% win rate on the lower edge of the middle kind of green area there, but we're still in the green area. That's kind of where we're trying to be at. So it's not a bad army. It's not losing every single game. It's not down at the very bottom like Blades of Corn or Carriage Overlord. So we're in an okay place. I definitely wasn't expecting to see like nerfs across the board or buffs across the board. I would have liked to seen a couple units hit, but overall, Seraphon's in a fine place, but we can't really compete with like Nighthaunt and Lumineth and Gitz up there at the top, but we're okay. This other chart, I kind of like this one. This one kind of showed what the percentage of win rates at a GT would be, and here's Seraphon right there. And it shows that our biggest chunk comes right here at 43%. What this means is that you have a 43% chance of only getting 2 wins if you go to a GT. I think that is the highest number there for that 2-win bracket, which is a little concerning. That means that we are getting some wins, but generally you're gonna end up with like 2 and 3. Maybe if you've got a highly competitive list and are a good player, you're going 3 and 2. Some people, as we've seen with some of these lists, they're pushing that a little bit higher to 4 and 1, but I haven't seen too many 5 and 0 lists lately. So just to kind of give you an idea of where Seraphon is at. So let's look at the point changes that they gave for us, and do they make sense or do they not? So the first one up here is Lord Croak. So we see Lord Croak, he's gone down 30 points. A nice change. I mean, thank you. But I think what's Croak's issue is not his points. It's his War Scroll. Even at 430 points, you have a lot of your army tied up in a unit that could be insta-killed on accident because of his War Scroll ability. So I think until that randomness changes, it's going to be hard to justify his point costs. And the Salon just offers more, to be honest. Same spell casting, 3 power wizard, and the Salon offers recursion of your units, where Croak just is a little bit tougher but that toughness doesn't translate because he could automatically die on accident. So I don't know that this is going to push the needle on his inclusion in any of our lists. Kind of the same for the Ripperdactyl Chief, down 20 points. That makes him a pretty cheap skink hero, but he really doesn't do much. So if you're just looking for an insanely cheap skink hero, you might go with just the skink Star Priest down here. He's cheaper, opens up to some of the same stuff as the Ripperdactyl Chief. So I don't know that that's going to push his inclusion much. Maybe with Ripperdactyls getting cheaper, we'll look at them here in a second. Maybe he makes it into a few lists just to give them a little bit of extra damage, but I'm not sure it's quite worth it. Another change is the Saurus Old Blood goes down 20 points, and this one's probably, of all the changes here, this one might be the most interesting, which seems weird because the Saurus Old Blood also is, not a great war scroll, but that gets a Saurus hero at 110 points, which opens up a Saurus units in a battle regiment. So if for some reason you weren't taking a Slann or your Slann regiment was full and you still wanted like a unit of Agrodons or something or some warriors, then you could fit them cheaply into his battle regiment. So maybe there's an edge case for that if you're just really trying to squeeze points. 110 for him for a Saurus hero is pretty cheap. Pair well with Saurus warriors, I guess. If you're bringing a big block of Saurus warriors and you couldn't fit them into your Slann regiment for some reason, maybe that opens it up for you. The Carnosaurs, unfortunately, did not go down in points at all. I was hoping to see them go down in points. The Old Blood on Carnosaur, he's got to come down. 60 points more than the Scar Veteran just is not worth it. It's got to come down more. Same with the Scar Veteran on Carnosaur. I mean, at 270, he's just not worth it. I think you need both of these down to 250 at least. Maybe less. I don't know. They're just supposed to be a beat stick, I guess. That's basically all they do, and they're not very good at that. Great model. One of these days, they'll get the Carnosaur right. The Scar Veteran on Agrodon. This is so frustrating because I really want to run him. He's such a great model. I really like this model, and I want it to pair well with the Agrodons. But a once per battle ability is its biggest problem. I'm adding 1 to the attacks of the mount, which the mounts hit on 4s and 3s. Remember. And so once per battle ability to kind of get its rage started is fine. But at now 190 points, we're getting to where we're only, what is now 30 points away from just another unit of Agrodons. Just take another unit of Agrodons. So it's frustrating because it's such a great model. You want to run them with Agrodons, but it's not quite there yet. I think maybe maybe there were some people playing it in like a mass Agrodon list where it was him and just a ton of Agrodons and you're shooting them all across the board. You're pumping them up for their once per game and then just locking the opponent into their territory. Maybe that somebody did that at GW to the points guy and he said, nope, that's going up. Scar Veteran on Carnosaur needs to come down. Troglodyte needs to come down still. Star Priest is fine. I mean, you take it, I guess, if you need the points, but otherwise you'll skip it. The Star Seer goes up 10 points. This is one I could understand. It's a very good unit. It's a very good hero. The Star Seer and Slann are in just about every list right now. So up 10 points is perfectly acceptable, understandable. 2-cast wizard with a fantastic War Scroll spell and a okay once per game ability. Slann didn't change, stays at 280. Stegodon Chief went down 20 points to 240. I don't know. Is that supposed to make it all of a sudden playable? The Chief of the Stegodons doesn't buff Stegodons. Like, fix its War Scroll, GW. Come on. Make it do something interesting. Right now, it doesn't do anything that's worthwhile. Pterodon Chief down 20 points. I don't know anybody who's taking pterodons, so all right. Some decent points drops, but really all these points are dropping for things that nobody's going to use, even if they're cheaper. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing it, guys. Is this something that you're planning on using? All right, let's look at units. Agrodon Lancers are going up 10 points. I guess that's fine. That's not a huge change. So in general, you would have a reinforced unit of Agrodons in a standard list if you want them there. And so a list is going to go up 20 points. I can generally squeeze 20 points somewhere. But now they're the same price as Kroxigor. Before they were cheaper than Kroxigor. And so if I needed to, I would fit in Agrodons if I just didn't quite have the points for Kroxigor. Now they're the same points for Kroxigor. If I'm not looking to Alpha Strike, then I'm going to go Kroxigor just about every time. You're getting more wounds. All the Kroxigor, they wound on 2s. So that means you don't have to, buff that. All you need to buff is to hit. So I can guarantee extra damage from the Kroxigor War Spawn, basically with skink units. And so, I'm starting to lean towards Kroxigor at the same price point now. Agrodons still have their role. They're fast. You can make them fast, but you can get Kroxigor going 7 inches and a run and charge for a 13-inch move and still get a charge. So I don't know, guys. All right, Bastiladon with Ark of Sotek goes down 10 points. I think if you were taking it, you'd take it anyway, regardless of that 10 points. Bastiladon with Solar Engine down 20. It's got to come down another 70 for me to play that thing. Especially with Priority Target gone now. Maybe you could make a case with Priority Target back up here to this rule where, you could get +1 to hit and wound on that Bastiladon and shoot some stuff. But now that's off the table because you're not getting this within 12 inches of one specific unit. So you're hitting on 3s and 3s, only 3 attacks. No, this needs to be 200 points. that probably seems drastic, but it's got to be way cheaper. Engine of the Gods 210. I like Engine of the Gods, so I'm glad it didn't go up, I'm glad it didn't go up in points. Nobody's using it. I like it. If I've got 210 and I'm looking for something kind of fun, I throw in an Engine of the Gods there. One thing I am so glad they did not nerf was the bolas. Guys, take these bolas. These are amazing. For 90 points, they stayed at 90 points. Yes! That's one thing that is in every single list that we're making right now is Hunters of Fuache with Starstone bolas. So take those. 90 points. They're still fantastic. Great ability. Ambush. Come down on the table. So those great unit. Kroxigor stayed the same. Hallelujah. Glad those didn't go up in points. Raptidon Chargers stayed the same. Yes. So these are all, these three right here. These three right here are the staple of our competitive list right now. Hunters, Kroxigor, and Raptidon Chargers. So fantastic. I think that this isn't going to change a lot of our competitive lists. So that means we're not going down any further than we already are. One thing that did go down in points was the Raptidon Hunters. Again, they're okay. You saw in my previous list that they're our best shooting unit. I don't know that that's a serious way to play them. Their range on shooting is just so short. So short. But they're down 10 points, so they are cheap. If you're looking for a skink unit to score battle tactics and screen and grab objectives, and you don't quite have enough for Raptidon Chargers, then downgrade them to Raptidon Hunters for 130. Or better yet, downgrade them to the Ripperdactyl Riders for 110. Ripperdactyl Riders at 110 I liked them at 120. I think for 110 they're getting even cheaper here. and are fantastic units to score the board, to grab objectives, grab battle tactics, get in the way. They have good screening capabilities, and they can do a little bit of damage. It's not great, but they can do a little bit of damage, and especially if you tag something with the bloat toads. So Ripperdactyl Riders at 110 is great. I like that. Good direction movement for them. Source Guard went up. That went up 10 points. I feel like they like to adjust the auxiliary units to influence the price of the Salon. Instead of just increasing the price of the Salon, they increased the price of the Source Guards. So think of this as your Salon has gone up 20 points, because that's kind of what the Guard are there for. It is a great unit, even at 120. You know, a block of 10 of these for 240 is still a good investment. That's a lot of wounds next to your Salon. They have that 5-up ward, so I don't know that 10 points will adjust your list too much. You can make room for that somewhere else. Skinks went down 10. Source Warriors didn't change. That's good. They didn't need to. Skinks went down 10 points. That gets them down to 90. That puts them at, the same price point as the Hunters of Huanche. The Hunters just do so much more. I think if I was going to play Skinks, I might try to find the extra 20 points just to get in Ripperdactyl Riders. I think Ripperdactyl Riders, you're talking, the same, essentially the same number of wounds, but Ripperdactyl Riders will actually do something. They'll do a little bit of damage. They're fast. They'll get around on the board. They fly. I just think those are better. Spawn of Chotek went down 20 points. Again, the price has got to be cheaper for one attack, one shot for the thing that matters. On a 4 to hit, it just needs one more attack. Give it one more attack, price it at 150, and we take it. All of a sudden, it's a decent unit. Because I need one of the... I can't spend 150 points for a 4-up roll that might do nothing. So just give it one more attack and call it good. Stegodon's down to 220. So at 220, you're talking a Stegodon is the same price as a unit of Agrodon Lancers or a unit of Croxagore. Which one are you going to take? I mean, you're taking the Agrodons or the Croxagore. Let's be honest. They have more wounds. They have more damage output. What's a Stegodon doing for me? I mean, other than looking awesome and looking cool, I love Stegodons, but it has a little bit of terrible shooting. No, it's not the points on these that make it into lists or not. It's the War Scrolls. Give them back their 10 control, and at 220, I'm putting one in my list. Just give it back what it had. Give it 10 control, please. All right, Pterodon Riders, down 10 points to 100 points. It's actually really cheap. Don't expect it to do much for you. If you have the extra 10 points, take the Ripperdactyl Riders. But Pterodon Riders at 100 points is an extremely fast unit that it's good for its points, I guess, for what it does. Don't expect it to do any damage. If you have the extra 10 points, take Ripperdactyl Riders. Terror Wings down to 90 points. I think it needs to be in like the Aether Wing or Griff Hounds. Aren't those cheaper? Aren't those like 70 points or something? 70, 80 points. I think if it gets down, if Terror Wings were less than Hunters of Huanche with Dart Pipes, so 70 points, then maybe you would find a case to put them into a list as just a unit that's going to be on the board that might or might not do something. You don't care. It's cheap enough. All you needed to do is just go take up some board space, grab an objective that nobody's on, that type of thing. So I think it needs to be a little bit cheaper. All right, that's all the points. Let's take a look at what these point changes do to some lists that we have right now. So I pulled out 4 lists that I've seen that have been competitive over the last few weeks, and let's see what their point costs are going to affect them. So Here's one, and it is actually at 1960. So he was playing at under 40 points, under the limit. Somehow he knew. He knew exactly what he needed to do here, because this is going to be a perfect 2,000 points after the price increases. Overall, the list does go up 40 points. And I think that's kind of about what you'll see in some of these lists, going up about 10, 20, 40 points, somewhere in there. So what we have here, we have the 20 points up from the Agrodon Lancers. That was reinforced, so that's 10 points each. Minus 10 from the Ark of Sotek. Plus 20 from the Saurus Guard, and then plus 10 from the Skink Starseer. So everything goes up cumulatively 40 points, and that puts him right at 2,000 points. So this list here, which I think it went 4-1, would not be affected by this at all. As it'd be back to exactly 2,000 points. So no difference there. He might want to rethink Morbid Conjuration maybe, but you probably don't have to. It still plays well into what you're trying to do here. All right, the next list here. This list was titled Stupid Sexy Croxagores. It was at 1960, also playing under points, which helps in this case. This list actually only went up 10 points total. So we see a Star Master, some Croxagore Warspawn, Raptidon Chargers, a Starseer, which went up 10 points, Hunters of Huanche, Warspawn, and more Raptidon Chargers. So we're really leading into all of those 3 critical units that I talked about, Warspawn, Chargers, and Hunters, and then the 2 heroes that are in just about every list, Starseer and Star Master, the Slon. So overall, this list only went up 10 points. It's still perfectly playable. So that's good news. Good news. This list here, it must have been from China or something. I think it went 5-0. So it's pretty good. I need to look into this a little bit more, how many people were at that tournament and stuff, to see how well this one did. This is interesting, though. This list went up 0 points. It was at 2,000, and it went up 0 because everything canceled out. And this list is interesting, okay? I like this list. So it's an odd meta over there, I guess. But we've got a Slon in the General's Regiment, Agrodon Lancers, Hunters, Raptidon Hunters, and then Ripperdactyl Riders. Okay, all that's pretty standard. I like Ripperdactyl Riders there. We have in the Next Regiment, Starseer with Raptidon Chargers, and then Ripperdactyl Riders. All of those are reinforced. So a lot of reinforced units here, but this unit has 9 Ripperdactyl Riders. That is awesome. I like to see that. So this list is extremely fast. But it still has quite a bit of wounds in it. It does have some Agrodon Lancers that can really provide the punch. But then Raptidon Chargers, you get this many of them charging in, and even though they're not quality attacks, you have enough attacks that you're going to do quite a bit of damage. So pretty cool here. And it worked out exactly perfect. So I like the point changes there. It made for a very interesting list. This one here is the only one that actually would no longer be a valid list based on these point changes. Croxagorgeous. nice name there. This is a 3-drop. And the only thing that we see going up in points in this list is the Starseer. So in the first regiment, we have the Star Master, a couple units of Hunters of Huanche, your Croxagore Warspawn. Regiment 2 is Starseer, Croxagore Warspawn, Raptidon Chargers. So you got your 2 big hammers in the Croxagores. Your movement pieces with your Raptidon Chargers that can also buff your Warspawn. And then your Hunters of Huanche to grab battle tactics and objectives. And then they did include also the Regiment of Renown, which is the Saviors of Cinderfall, Callus and Toll, which is a very good unit, a very good Regiment of Renown. A lot of people thought this would be going up by 100 points, and it didn't change at all. So look into this War Scroll. It can be extremely tough unit, and it can do some pretty decent damage. So for 230 points, it's a very good Regiment of Renown to include if you don't mind going up to 3 drops there. It plays a role in kind of a hammer unit that does some good damage, or an anvil unit that still does good damage. So overall, this list went up 10 points though. So what would I change here? I think you could change a couple of things. My first reaction is just drop this unit down to the Blowpipe Hunters of Huanche. Now, you do lose out on the special ability where they get a chance to reduce the charge, and I really like comboing these guys up. If there's that one unit you really do not want to be charging you, you can combo these up to make sure that you get that through. So maybe I don't want to change that if that's kind of the play style. And I think what you can do is you can reduce one of these Raptidon Chargers. Just turn them into Raptidon Hunters if you want to, or bring them down to Ripperdactyl Riders. That would even free up a few more points if for some reason you wanted to. I don't know what you'd spend it on, but you can bring that down to one of those. So I think you have a couple options to make up that 10 points here, and you're not really losing a whole lot. Raptidon Chargers, on the Charger will probably do more damage than the Ripperdactyl Riders, but the Ripperdactyl Riders are faster and fly. So there's that. It does offer a little bit of a different playstyle there. So overall, I don't think it's that huge of an impact here. Something we can make up for. All right, I think that's it for today. We had some point changes. Let me know how it affected your list and what you're going to flex that into. I don't think we were hit too hard. Some very odd changes, though, for stuff that I don't think is all that playable still, even with the point changes. So, all right, until the next Battlescroll or Battle Tome or who knows what we have next from Games Workshop, I'll see you guys next time.